Hello everyone, and if you're returning, welcome back. If you're here for the first time, welcome. My name is Shannon. This is Made by Boo, and I have a few projects to talk about today. I had an extra week off as I was preparing to take my BCBA exam. I took it on Wednesday and I passed. So now I have a whole bunch more time outside of my studying, and hopefully pretty soon you'll start seeing some of these projects finish. We'll see, but with that extra week off, I figured the weekend before my test, I was not adding in filming, so instead I am filming almost a week late. Today is Friday the 13th, which I just enjoy, but it's when I had the moment to film. I'm looking around me to see what I have. It looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 works in progress that I have actually done something on, and only one finished object. I also have quite a few acquisitions this week, as I had some Halloween pre-orders and a little bit of both pre and post-test nerves that it ended up with thinking I could do more than I could. So getting right on into it, I will show my one finished object before it falls on the floor. So this is something I had not shown before. A long time ago I used to deeply love doing plushies, and then as I started school I kind of had a little bit of a combination of, hey, I really think I'd like to make some stuff I can wear again. And then some of the plushie patterns just seemed like, if I'm focused on my other studying, I'm not really following a complex pattern. But then I saw this little guy. Oh, I don't really want to sew the hat on. But I saw this little guy just advertised as a kit on Amazon. I have no idea off the top of my head the brand. It was just this cute little look at a dinosaur in a witch hat. I love the color purple, and the yarn was actually very fuzzy. It was a nice plush. I did use the hook that the kit came with. I do tend to really prefer Furls crochet hooks. Theirs wasn't my preference. It wasn't a bad hook, it wasn't my preference. It was an ergonomic with a nice soft everything, but I just kind of grabbed their hook because the whole kit was together and went for it. The only problem I really had with the kit is that it did not include any eyes. And so I got to the end and it was like, okay, cool, what do I do? And it just said glue the eyes in, and I didn't have any eyes that came with it. And it was like, well, I don't even like gluing them. I prefer to have them like safety eyes. But I did happen to have some other ones that I could sew on. I did consider sewing the little witch's hat, but it did also come with a pattern to make like a tiny bowler hat and a bow tie. So I'm currently leaving it so that maybe I can make him another hat, and who knows, maybe this little guy will get a whole collection of hats. I don't know. It might get stolen by my 6-year-old the second that she gets the opportunity, because she has already eyeballed it. So that is my only finished object. It's kind of the only finished object I've had in a few weeks. I definitely started working on a lot more longer projects when I had less time to work on them while I was studying. I'm not sure why I did that. It definitely left me constantly feeling stressed that I needed to finish stuff. So hopefully I can finish some stuff soon. We'll go ahead and just get into... Let's go ahead and get into some of the stuff we have seen. So this is the pair of socks I've been working on. I actually did kind of hope I would have these done today, but they're not quite done. So I do have the label for these ones. These are using Hobbie's Halloween Sock Wool Glitter. It's a superwash wool, #1 fine, and this is color #2. I know they have more fun names on the website, but they don't print them on the labels. So these are done in tandem. I'm planning on doing an afterthought heel so that I didn't break up this big stripe pattern. So this is sock #1. I've been doing it 2x2 rib. As you can see now that maybe you can see, now that I'm on the foot, I am not doing ribbing on the bottom, and I have just some waste yarn there so that I can pull it out. I know you can do a cutout afterthought heel. I never have, and just this wasn't the time I wanted to try it. So I do have a little ghosty stitch marker right down there. Does not look like it wants to focus on that. But that's how far I was last time. So I've made a lot of progress in 3 weeks. And then this is the other sock. I mostly work on these in the car. Before work, I'd sit there and I would watch like study videos on YouTube and then just knit away on these. So here is where my other little ghosty is on the other sock. So a little bit farther on this sock than this one. And I'm sure you guys can see, if you do not remember from last time, that I accidentally ended up with one a little bit longer than the other. And I've just decided I'm okay with the extra 2 or 3 rows. If it makes me deeply, deeply uncomfortable, I'll do something about it later. Yeah, I should be able to finish these soon, but I was only working on them for about 20 minutes a day in the car. And so they haven't gotten a lot of attention, but I really do want to get them finished, so I'm going to try to devote a little bit of extra time to these. I also spent a bit of time working on my shirt. This is the Panopeia shirt. It is from Expression Fiber Arts. It is using, I have one more unwound, Expression Fiber Arts Silvery Seas Luster Sport. So the color is Silvery Seas, the yarn is Luster Sport, so it's a sport weight. And I am still working on, I don't know if it's going to be the front or the back. They're worked the same way, and I figure the one that looks better will be the front. I've got my little stitch marker for where I was last time, and I'm just working up on the lace point part. I think I'm about halfway through the lace on this, then I need to do the lace on the other one, sew them together, and do like the finishing on the neck and the arms. So, I mean, it's getting there. It's just been very slow going, and I will very likely finish this summer top in the middle of the winter, which is slightly disappointing, but I mean, it's going to be done when it's going to be done. This is not a fast craft. The next project that you guys have seen, I am just zooming right through these. So this is using Caron Colorama Halo. This is one of the Ogos, and the color was on the other one. The color Graphite Frost. So I know I heard that Ogo wasn't really a thing anymore. I'm not sure. I had 4 of this particular color in my stash with the plan on turning them into a sweater. And I mean, 4 of them seemed like more than enough for a sweater. I'm pretty sure I bought them as a sale where it was like buy 3 get a 4th free, and it was like, oh well, I kind of want to make a sweater. And then I never exactly decided how to use the ombre yarn in a sweater. And then one of my children was like, ooh, it's pretty cushy. I would love a blanket. And it's like, well, it's getting a home. So somewhere around in all of this is just a, there we go. That is my stitch marker. Got a little black cat there. So it doesn't look like I've gotten a ton done. This actually ended up being one of my main projects. I am now on my 3rd Ogo, so I went from white to the gray, deep into the gray, back to the white, and I'm now working on the white back to the deep gray, and then the 4th one will finish it up. This is just a giant solid granny square, nothing really fancy about it. And at a certain point in the last 3 weeks in all my studying, I had been doing a rotation, and I was like, you know what? Anything that requires thought is out, and it was all this. And at this point, I think I might still make it a huge focus. My in-laws are coming into town, and it's one that I can work on and still hold a conversation while they're here. And of course, you know, my child will be happy to have it finished, and then I will have one large project that has been unfinished that I can just, it's done. And that will be a nice feeling. I think that one might be one of the last ones you've seen. Let me readjust so I can get the other ones, and then we will get into the second half of these works in progress. All right, so there's actually 2 more that I have shown before to show. I'll grab the one that's a little farther away. I really need like a big table to hold this stuff on. Anyways, so this is a cross stitch that I have been working on. I purchased the pattern off Etsy, and the plan is, now that I am done with my testing, when this is done, it's going to be hung on the wall next to my desk. So I don't know exactly where I was last time I showed it. I think I had just like these flowers here. Maybe I just had some lettering. I don't know. I decided to go ahead and start doing some of this building out with the vines for a little bit because it made it look like I got a whole bunch done, and it definitely made me feel more accomplished. And then there's more of like the vine kind of stuff to put in there, but the plan is to kind of just build the flowers around, and then any of the little stuff that's outside of there, even if it's more of this color, build that afterwards. A lot of time, if I can, I try to use as much of one color as possible at a time since it's already on my little needle. But I do like to try to have stuff that goes near other stuff because it helps make sure that I'm not miscounting anything. So, not a lot else to say about that cross stitch, just that it's going to be fun to hang by my desk and it'll make me happy. And the last project that I have shown before, I have not shown in a little while, but I've made a decent amount of progress in the last however many weeks since I showed it. This is my data blanket. You can see my little pigeon kind of off. Now it's a little more center. That's my little pigeon stitch marker, so I've made quite a bit of progress since the last time I worked on it. This is sort of my version of a temperature blanket. It is being done with Cascade Heritage yarn, just single crochets all the way across. It is the simplest of blankets, but each line, not back, like not over and back, just over is one, back is another one. They are each a test that I took along my way to the big test. I'm going to have 2 of these now because there's 2 different sets of tests that I was taking. Yeah, there's not much else to say other than I have made some more progress. It's a nice simple one, but I have this basket of my yarns, and then I have a notebook with all my test scores in it. So it's not the most mobile project I have, which means that it does tend to get ignored a lot. The upside is now, though, is when I'm making progress on it, I will no longer also have I put 2 tests into the blanket, but then I also took 15 more because some of those tests, they're like 10 questions. I can take it in a minute, and then it'll take me 15 to 20 minutes to do a line, depending on exactly how speedy I'm doing that day. So, I mean, I no longer have that like, woohoo, I made so much progress on both, making it hard to catch up. Now I'm just working on it and catching up. And eventually I am going to have a cozy way to commemorate a very stressful couple years in my life doing a whole bunch of studying. So I still have 3 more works in progress right here. One of these I might have shown, I may have just talked about it. I'm not 100% sure. Let me see if I have my label here so I get the color right. Yep. So this yarn is from Evergreen Yarn Studio. It is the color Trick or Treat. So I was having a little bit of trouble with my ball winder, and so this one ended up being just, oh Lord, there's a hair in here. This is just like a hand wound ball because that just made the most sense at the time. But this is, I am working on a Mussleburgh hat. I started it about a month or so ago. I'm sure I have it written down exactly when I started it, but the idea was that I would have something to take with me because occasionally my work has free tickets to the Boise State football game, and my sorry. My husband absolutely loves football, so I don't mind live football games, but I'm not a huge sports fan in general. And so while we're there, it's nice for me to have something to kind of fidget with, but I don't want anything with a complicated pattern. I don't want like any needles or hooks that I could drop. So this is just one go. We're at the point where it's just go stockinette stitch forever until we get to the end. So I cast it on before the game that we went to this year. And then I have these two little stitch markers here that show about how much, oh my goodness, there we go. The focus is not great today. I'm gonna have to work on that. But where my hands are, that's about how much I got done at the football game. And then it's another one of those ones that I picked up a little bit since then, just because it was mindless. It was so easy. It just keep going stockinette, and when I was already thinking about so many other things and stressed, it was a really great project. These little bats at the end, I know we're not gonna get them super clear because my focus is just not great today. I'm gonna have to look into that. These little bats actually came, they are a new acquisition. They came in my first ever Yarnable, and I thought about not using them yet so that I could, you know, show them off, but they worked really well with my Halloween hat and they were adorable and I just wanted to. So that is my Mussleburgh hat. Feel like I am just zooming through all of these, but there's a lot of them, so I almost feel like I have to. This one is going to be one where there's not a lot of exciting things to say. Kind of in the same frame as the dinosaur, I started getting a little bit more wanting to go back into some plushies and things. They're fun, and I just started finding a whole bunch of cute Halloween-like ones that were inexpensive. Some of them were from Amazon, some of them were not. But this is a kit that I did find off Amazon. I'll just kind of show the picture the best I can. Let me see. That's a little bit better. Okay. Probably have to edit some of this out. Okay, there we go. So it's just a little pumpkin with a ghost wearing a witch hat in a box. There's nothing really exciting to see. I have pumpkin parts that need to be sewn together, but it'll be something that I will enjoy because I love ghosts, I like Halloween, and I may take my little pumpkin box with a ghost and a witch hat in it and set it on my desk at work. And I work with children. Most of the time they're not in the office, but occasionally they come in, so it'll be something that I will enjoy. And I'm sure some of the kids down there will enjoy opening it up and seeing the little ghost, and the ones who won't appreciate it, I just will tell them it's a cool pumpkin. So my last work in progress, this is both work in progress and new acquisition of yarn. It's another one of those where I thought about holding off on it, and then I just cast it on anyways. I knew I shouldn't have cast on. Not just because it was a new acquisition, but because, as you can see, I have a lot of projects going. And these are just the ones I've worked on in the last 3 weeks. Not the only ones I have, or the only ones I want to do. But I really wanted to do this one. So this is yarn by Freckled Whimsy. It is part of the Zodiac collection in the color Libra. I am a Libra. My birthday is actually this weekend. And last year, I got a yarn called October with the idea that I would make myself some fun birthday socks in October. And then with everything going on in my life with school and everything at the time, because I was still doing that a year ago, I still have that yarn. I never wound it up, never cast it on. And I didn't want that to happen again this year. So I got the yarn, and it was one of those where it's like, well, after I'm done with my test, after I show it. And then I was like, no, I just want to do it. And it was not a smart idea, but I'm still happy I did it. So I am using double pointed needles. It came with a little ball that I'm using to do I'm going to do a heel flap. All right, let me see if I can catch my thoughts here. So I do have a 1x1 rib up here with just a few rows of the contrast color. I decided not to do the entire ribbing in the contrast color because I already have a lot of stripes going on. But with the way the pattern was going and where my ball of yarn had started, I would have had to have pulled out a whole bunch of yarn to make the colors make sense at the beginning. So I did about 5 rows, and then I was able to transition it into the stripe pattern. It is a 12 stripe repeat, so we have a light, dark, light, dark, light, dark. And I decided to just go ahead and do the contrast teal right at the end of the 12 stripe, which happened to coincide nicely with the red in the stripe pattern. And then as soon as I'm done with the heel flap, where I am doing 1x1 rib on the heel flap, I am planning on just picking it right back up with the stripes. I just thought at the end of the stripe repeat would be a good place to put the heel, and then it'll just use however many stripes it needs to for the foot. I did make a couple of alterations to what I would normally do. Most of the time I do my socks on slightly bigger needles. I usually use, I think 3mm, which I know is very unusual for making socks, and I usually kind of like that more loose weave, but I did decide to try to make these with a slightly tighter weave. It's supposed to be a very cold winter here. I wanted them to be nice, warm socks, so I am using 2.5mm needles. And normally I would do socks on double pointed needles like in tandem, but I only had one set of 2.5mm, and I didn't want to try to find the best place to break in the stripe pattern with this yarn anyways. So it was like, well, if I'm already not going to break it into 2 balls of any yarn I'm going to, this is a pretty good one to try different needles. So those are my Freckled Whimsy Libra socks. Ooh, I think I'm starting to get a cold, and all this talking is definitely not ideal. But luckily, got something to drink. So I have my acquisitions kind of divided into 3 categories here. I'm going to start with the smallest category. This actually just arrived yesterday. So this is, and since it just arrived yesterday, if you get the Paradise Fibers Fiber of the Month Club and you do not want any spoilers, now is a good moment to just take a break. The theme of this one is Moonlight Harvest. So there is a white merino, autumnal chunky merino blend, purple bent nose darning needle, vanilla chai tea, and 3 2-ounce bags of new chunky multi merino with a possibility of colors. I have opened it up and just kind of had a peek at it, but I do not actually know for sure which colors I got. So, ooh, and there are 3 Progress Keepers today. So I got a decaf vanilla chai tea. Again, this just arrived yesterday, so I kind of opened it and looked at it, but didn't get like a deep look at it. This is, that's an okay focus on it right there. This is my Eunice sticker, so I've got my little sheep in a harvest basket. And then I know from experience, my Progress Keepers are never going to go. Nice little bent tip darning needle. I don't use those all the time because they're a bit bigger. I usually like slightly smaller ones, but they are really good for using on my adding machine or, of course, with thicker yarns. So I have a little silver apple, a tiny silver pumpkin, and a tiny or a slightly bigger silver beet. Very, very cute Progress Keepers. To me, Progress Keepers and stitch markers are all basically the same, but I mean, that's just me. And then I have, this is probably my sample of Whitest White Merino. So it's just this teensy little bit. a cute little bag. Like, that's just the tiniest bit of wool. It's adorable. This has got to be the ounce of Autumnal Chunky Merino blend. So you can see nice oranges, and there's greens and blues, and it's almost like a little bit of purple in there. And now we get to kind of figure out which these are together. So this, I think this might be ethereal. So it's creamy but a hint of yellow, green, and pink. I don't know if that yellow, green, or pink is really going to show up, but it's very, very subtle in a good way. Make sure I am cleaning as I go, otherwise this gets chaotic. This has got to be Marmalade, the ultimate orange and yellow tangerine dream. I think that's fair to say this is Marmalade. And now this last one is looking kind of grays and blues. So there is one that's called Normal, soft taupe, brown, and gray shades, but not boring. So I think that is Normal. And I would agree, it looks kind of wintry to me more than autumn, but I definitely like it. So that is my Paradise Fibers Fiber of the Month bag. I am so far behind on spinning things. At some point, I am really just considering putting all of my monthly subscriptions I'm behind on in a big old bucket and starting to like grab them all and make this big, chaotic, random yarn. But I do miss spinning. Spinning and sewing are both things that I have missed, but I felt like were harder to stop studying and do a little bit. Whereas with knitting and crochet and even cross stitch, I could work on that for 10 minutes, set it down, do a little studying, then take a 10-minute break, then study. And sewing and spinning, to me, they're so hard to get going on that hasn't worked. So I'm really looking forward to doing more of that. So now on to the kits around me. So the second section of my acquisitions is the various stuffed animal type kits that I have acquired. It got a little chaotic. So this one, it's not going to really show you much. This was found on Amazon. It doesn't really have a picture of what's in it, but it's going to make 3 tiny ghosts. I think one had bat wings, one had devil horns, and another one had something else. I know it wasn't a witch hat because that would have been what I would have expected. Maybe a pumpkin stem? If you can't guess, I love ghosts. Always have. So yeah, I don't really have a good picture. Maybe there's probably one inside the box, but you will see these as I make them, and maybe they'll all go in the pumpkin. Not Halloween themed, but also just found off Amazon. I live in Idaho, and the idea of crocheting a couple of potatoes just seemed like fun to me. I don't know why. It was one of those where it's like a semi-pre-test anxiety. I was planning all the things I was going to do, and I mean, honestly, these are probably going to be very simple makes, and they will make me giggle, and that's really all I need from it, just to get a little joy. The next one I have, this I actually saw someone else purchase it. This was purchased from Barnes & Noble, but I actually ordered it online because I wasn't sure when I would have time to go into Barnes & Noble, and I really did not want to miss out on it. So this is the Creepy Crochet Kit. It comes with the stuff in it to make this ghost and this mangy looking black cat, which my daughter has already requested the mangy looking black cat. But even just from the side with the little Grim Reaper, I was already sold. I have not opened it yet, if you cannot tell. It also has, let's see, a Plague Doctor. There's the mangy looking cat. This little like haunted looking doll. Grim Reaper, a skeleton guy, very creepy looking witch, a little devil, there's the ghost, and then these two are a zombie bride and groom. So the actual yarn that comes in here, it's only to make the ghost and the cat, but it has all that you need and then the instructions for everything else. That's usually what you get in kits like this where it's a bunch of patterns. The one thing that I did find really cool too is I have not opened it, but the person who I had seen open it, they did say that the yarn that was described being used in this was, I want to say, it was like Joann's in-house brand, and then Red Heart was another alternative. So they actually made the ideas of these patterns using very easy to find, accessible yarns. Most of the time when I make stuff from these books, I just use whatever I have, and if it's not the exact same color, it's fine, as long as it's a color I like. But I do appreciate that the people who put this together made it easier for people to find the specific yarns, so that if people wanted to make it exactly the same, they could. And I mean, that's just not always the case with kits like this. Sometimes you have to go online and order it only from their company. Sometimes you can't order it. So I thought that it was a very common, accessible yarn, was a really nice touch. Alright, I have two more simple ones. So after I took my test, on my way home, I drove by Craft Warehouse, just because it happened to be near the testing center, and I was happy and in a good mood. I did not go overboard, which I'm very impressed with me on. But one of the things I did get was 2 crochet gnome kits. So this one is the little autumn themed one, and then this one is the Christmas themed one. And I just thought they would be fun to make and have as decoration. I did consider getting 2 of each kit just because I know, like my mother-in-law, I'm sure would love having these as part of her decorations every year. But I also just kind of figured that if the patterns are good and I enjoy making them and feel like making another one, I already have the pattern. I don't need like the extra hook or anything, so all I would really need is more yarn. And I have a lot of yarn, and if I'm using the yarn that I have accessible to me, I could technically just change it up to however I feel like it. So, I mean, maybe the ones where it comes with the colors will be what I make for my mother-in-law, and then maybe I will make it with slightly different colors for myself. Or maybe I will adjust the colors for her. Maybe I will end up going and getting the kits again because I like it exactly how they are. Who knows? Maybe I'll decide I don't like making them. But yeah, I like gnomes. Nice little holiday gnomes to add to my decor. Seems like a fun and, while not necessary, it's gonna happen idea. I feel like I should have warned everybody to buckle up. It's gonna be a long one, but I mean, we're already in it now. So the last of the kits that I got, some of them fell on the floor, sorry. So I got the advertisement on Instagram, and what I saw advertised was the Woobles kit for Steve the Frankenstein. Frankenstein is a book I absolutely love. It is one of my favorite classics. And so, I mean, I keep little Frankenstein stuff. He holds my yarn. And I keep a few Frankensteins and ghosts out year-round. So seeing him, it was like, okay. I don't get a lot of Woobles kits. Like, I have their book. I've purchased a couple of their kits recently. I don't, like, have a problem with the Woobles, but I don't usually feel like I need them. They're very simple designs, designed for beginners. And so I don't always need them as simple as they're made. I don't usually need the hook they come with, anything like that. Like, I think they're a great idea, but they're not necessarily designed for somebody who's been crocheting for a very long time. But I don't care. I needed Steve the Frankenstein. And so I went to the Woobles site to order Steve the Frankenstein and was offered the alternative of the entire Halloween kit. And of course I went for the entire Halloween kit because it also came with Snooky, the glow-in-the-dark ghost, And not like it actually matters, but the packaging glows in the dark too, which was just a fun touch. I also got Luna the Bat, a tiny candy corn, and then this one doesn't have a picture on it, but it is supposed to make a tiny pumpkin. So it was one of those where it's like, do I need the entire Halloween set? Apparently yes. But yeah, I knew I really wanted the ghost and Steve the Frankenstein. One of my children deeply loves bats. Another child was just a little disappointed that these ones were claimed and asked if I could make a witch's hat to go on top of the candy corn. So I'm going to try to make a witch's hat using embroidery floss to make it small enough. And then the pumpkin, like, I actually have several handmade pumpkins that I need to find and put out. So it's like, adds to the collection. So that is all of my purchased kits. Not all of my purchased items. Let me do a quick readjust and grab the rest of my yarn. Alright, so I mentioned before that I had a few Halloween pre-orders. I do still have 2 more that I'm waiting to come in. One is supposed to be a Halloween night cast on, so it's not even shipping until next week. Another one I believe was shipping from Germany, so I'm assuming it's going to be coming at some point here. I'm not too stressed about it yet, just because there could be an extra amount of time. If we get too far, I might get a little more worried. So I do have some of my Halloween pre-orders, and then 2 just subscription boxes right here. The first one will be a nice quick one. This is my Muse 2320 Troop 2320 set. This is actually from September. It was running a little bit late. I know the dyer was working on, I think, a couple of shows and then also Halloween boxes, and I think it was just so many things at once these got shipped out late. But this is the color Beale Street Blues. So that one was just a simple one because it's a monthly subscription. I had the year subscribed, and I had been thinking that when the Troop 2320, which was supposed to be a 1-year subscription, was done, I might try like Yarnable, but I knew that like sometimes there was a wait list for that. And so I went ahead and put myself on the wait list, and then happened to be lucky to be able to get right in. So that is my new subscription. I had been mostly planning on it for next year, but it was like, well, if I can get in now, is there always spots available? Like every month, or I don't know. So this is my first month. It came with, you could get different stitch markers. Mine were these little bats. And in the bag with the little bats, there were also some little, I don't know, they make me think of like dice, but I don't know what shape it's supposed to be. But other just colorful tip toppers, a Halloween blend black tea, this was the yarn in the color Spellbound. I just got the one skein of plush sock because I figured that would be what I'd end up making with it, is socks and or a hat. I just figured that the one skein was what was going to work well for me. And then I'm sure that if you watch very many people, I mean, the Yarnables came out a little while ago. I know some people have even already completed their projects, so some of this shouldn't be a surprise. But there's a black pom-pom, cookie cutters in the shape of a little skull and a bat, and then this teeny tiny Matchbox cross-stitch kit for a tiny pumpkin. I may or may not make that this year. Like, I'm really excited about it, but I do also have a big cross-stitch project I'm working on. It does have a little face, but who knows, I may just leave the face off, and then I could like make the excuse that it's just a fall decor, not a Halloween decor. I don't know. But that is my first ever Yarnable that I have received. One of my first pre-orders I will get into, it actually came with this bag. It is from Ramblin' Needles, and it was a Three Sisters yarn set based on the Sanderson sisters, and it was actually really sweet. They messaged me through Etsy and were like, hey, do you have a preferred sister? And I was like, you know, no, but these are the colors that I generally go for. And they selected Winifred for me. I'm not sure if I want to put the orange with it when I make something with it, because like it fits for her hair, but it's definitely a bright contrast. And then it also came with a little sticker that says, oh look, another glorious morning makes me sick. And then it was another thing like the bat stitch stoppers. I was like, well, I could wait and show it first, or I could use my tarot card Sanderson Sisters bag to hold a Halloween themed project, and I went for that option. The other new acquisition I got as part of a pre-order was from FanGirl Fibers. She had several Halloween pre-order options. I got the 5 weeks of Campfire Stories. I don't have the Progress Keepers stitch markers that came with it in here with me, but they never show up well on the camera anyways. Each week has also come with a tote bag, which one of them is already at work holding, I think it's filled with candy actually. But I have the yarns. The first week was the color 7th Barn. And to me, it just has this like, it could look like s'mores, like a latte. It's very, very edible browns, if that makes sense. Like I love it. I'm not describing it well. And then the next week was Yaquima Bay Lighthouse. I'm sure I butchered that. But some beautiful blues and greens. I have 3 more weeks of it, so there will be more yarns from this collection. I don't know if they're all going to go into one project together or not. The last set I got from FanGirl Fibers that had 5 100-gram colors of yarn, I did end up making a shawl out of, and it's super cozy and I love it, so who knows, maybe that's what this will end up being. I'm kind of waiting to see what the other colors look like before I decide, so. Then the last pre-order that I have received, this was a find from Etsy. It was a 13-day countdown based on the movie Practical Magic. I actually received it a couple of days into October, but decided I wanted to finish it this morning on Friday the 13th, so I gave myself extra yarn on, like, the day I passed my test. I got to open an extra yarn. Another day I just had a really stressful day at work, so I got to open 2 that day, and I finished opening it today. It did come with 2 potion bottle stickers, a keychain, and matching stitch marker. So it's little jewels with stars on them. A little instant coffee, hot chocolate, lollipop, and then it also had a flake bar, but one of my children actually loves flake bars, so that the flake bar did not last long. So the 13 colors, I have them all with their color names here. I don't know if I'm going to keep them with their color names forever, but I've kept them this way so far. This is Jilly Owens, White as Light, Mighty Hecate, Make It Right. I Hope I Never Fall in Love. Aunt Jet. One Green Eye and One Blue Eye. Sally Owens. Jimmy Angelove, Midnight Margaritas, My Blood, Your Blood, Our Blood. I think they got mixed up in their order, but Let's Clean House, I Dream of a Love That Even the Moon Will Lie Down and Be Still For, Aunt Frances, and my final color here is On Halloween We Jump Off the Roof. So, I'm not sure what I'm going to do with these 13 mini skeins. I do have a bit of a love of mini skeins, but I don't always know what to do with them. So, I mean, as of right now, they're just kind of a fun thing. Maybe they'll be used as contrast for something. Maybe I'll combine them with another yarn and put them into one big project. The reality is they made me happy, and that's all they really needed to do right now. So that is all of my works in progress, acquisitions, everything going on here. I still don't have much of anything life-wise that's interesting to report other than I passed my BCBA exam. That has been a huge portion of my life for a little while, and so now I'm looking forward to trying to remember what I used to do when I was a person. I know I used to have more things that I did with my time than study, and now I have to kind of try to remember, try to figure out what I want to do with my time. I haven't read a book in like 6 months. Most of the TV shows and everything I watch, they're things that I've seen before so that I don't have to focus on anything. So much of my time over the last, definitely the last 2 years, but even more so the last 6 months, has been very focused on what can I do so that I can still do a lot of studying. And so now I'm looking forward to not having to make that my entire focus. Exactly what that's going to look like, I don't know. Maybe I will start being able to tell you about books I'm reading because I'm actually reading books. I would love to be able to show some more projects that are hard to work on when I'm studying. I'd love to do some more sewing. I have some quilts that I wanted to do a long time ago. I have a huge chunk of fabric that I had planned to make just a pair of sweats and a sweatshirt. I mean, I have so much that I want to work on, and now it's just kind of a figuring out, wow, how do I do that? How do I fit that into my day? And it's going to be an adjustment again. But for now, that is all I have. Thank you so much for coming and sitting here with me, and until next time, happy making.